For many players in Destiny, PvP is the ultimate way they can express their Guardian's true power. The culmination of armor, weapons, and knowledge of the sandbox gets put to the test against other Guardians with similar intentions. However, there seemingly always comes a point in time where we, as players, face obstacles that just seem insurmountable. Whether those obstacles are as a result of the sandbox or self-imposed, we just seem to feel stuck. In this video, I'm going to share with you some of the most effective ways to improve in PvP. Now, I want to be very clear about my intentions for this video. For those who have been around for a while, you probably know where this is going, but to put it simply, the results you are seeking from the advice in this video are going to take time. There is no quick fix in PvP, or many things for that matter. To get better at PvP, it's going to take time, and it's going to take some determination. So if you're willing to accept both of those things, then you're in the right place. Let's start by talking about the first thing that you need to do in order to improve in PvP: identifying your playstyle. A lot of player frustration in Destiny comes from the topics we're going over today, and I would say the most prominent one is not knowing the type of player that you are. For example, if you are someone that really enjoys playing at range, meticulously moving around the map to find the most optimal angles to start engagements, you're probably going to have a hard time using something like an SMG. And even though Shayura's Wrath and Multimach are really good weapons right now, they're just not optimal for those types of situations. You need a weapon that has high damage output and can do it at range, and also something to help with those close range engagements. That type of loadout might be a 120 hand cannon and a fusion rifle, or a pulse rifle and a shotgun. The weapon doesn't maketh the player. The player maketh the weapon. The cool thing about playstyles is that they are actually quite fluid. What I mean by this is that they can actually change from game mode to game mode. For me, I tend to have a little bit of a run and gun playstyle in 6v6 game modes like Control and Clash. But in 3v3 modes like Trials, I tend to be more of a lone wolf type player. In 6s, I tend to gamble with my positioning a bit more because I know I have more teammates around me. And if I need to, I can kite my engagements towards places on the map where I see some of my teammates. In 3v3 modes, that's less likely to happen because, well, there's just less people. So instead, in 3v3 modes, I like to play off angles to see if I can catch any of the other team's players out of position. And I do that by not being near any of my teammates, at least for the beginning of the round. I consider myself to have relatively good aim, but I don't think it's amongst the top players in Destiny by any means. What I do have is a particular set of skills. What I do have is a very good knowledge of my playstyle and my limitations within my loadout and my playstyle. I'm pretty good at reacting to my surroundings, and overall, when my positioning is on point, I can win most of my 1v1s. Where I go wrong is when I become overly ambitious on getting a kill. I can sometimes become tunnel visioned and only focus on getting that kill, thus compromising my positioning and leaving me out in the open for someone else to easily take me out. The way I've been able to identify these things over time is by doing two things: playing a lot and watching myself play by using some kind of video recording software. If you're on console, it's as simple as hitting whatever your respective console's record button sequence is. On PC, some simple ways to do this are through OBS Studio and, my personal favorite, the NVIDIA Shadowplay overlay. All I have to do is hit F10 and it will record the previous 2 minutes of gameplay. The reason this is so impactful is because a lot of times during the course of a match, we tend to fixate on certain things, oftentimes hindering our ability to be totally objective about what just happened. And the great thing about the recording is that it can't lie. I can't tell you how many times I've thought one thing during a Crucible match and immediately went to the recording afterwards, only to discover that my positioning wasn't what I thought it was, or that I didn't actually get one shot by something because I was already at half health. Look, I know it's not super exciting to do, and I know that it is just a game that we're all playing, but there's a reason you're watching this video. You want to challenge yourself. You want to get better because you believe in yourself and the potential growth that you have. This is a very important step in that growth. Another important step in your growth as a PvP player is to find consistency, more specifically with your loadout. It is incredibly important for you to be using weapons that you feel comfortable with. It doesn't have to be considered a meta loadout. Now, I know the irony of me saying this since I did just post a top 5 weapons to use in Trials video, but the reality is that while those guns are very good, they're only very good if you know their strengths and limitations. If you expect a weapon to just make you a better player, you've got the wrong mindset. So, use what feels good for you and your playstyle. And if you want to take it a step further, start mixing and matching weapons that can cover all types of ranges: short, mid, and long range. Because of my playstyle, I tend to pick fairly aggressive loadouts that allow for fast kills and high damage output. Right now my go-to loadout is the Rapid Frame Auto Rifle Chroma Rush with Kill Clip and the Exotic Shotgun Duality. With this loadout, I've got my short and mid ranges easily covered, and that's where I find myself most effective. However, it's pretty challenging on longer maps like Midtown, Widow's Court, and even Bannerfall to an extent. When that's the case, I swap out Chroma Rush with either Time Worn Spire with Rampage or Messenger with Kill Clip. Again, because of my playstyle, I'm looking for weapons that can pump out massive damage in a short amount of time. Because of my playstyle, my positioning can be a bit precarious at times, which is why I use Mask of Bakris as sort of a last-ditch effort to bail me out if needed. However, I have my own process that I put myself through whenever I think about making changes to my loadout. If I ever decide to completely change my loadout, I pick 2 weapons that I think I'll enjoy using. I exclusively use them for about 2 weeks, maybe a little less. Then I make adjustments to the loadout afterwards. The reason I give myself around 2 weeks is because by that point, I've probably played anywhere from 15 to 20 hours of PvP. By that point, I feel like I fully understand the strengths and limitations of my loadout, that I can confidently make adjustments where I need to. Obviously, depending on your situation and how much you're able to play, you can do this too. Maybe you're able to play 10 to 15 hours in 1 week, or maybe you can only play for 30 minutes to an hour a night or every other night. You know yourself best, so pick an appropriate amount of time where you can catch the full spectrum of your loadout and stick with it for a while. You'll start to notice how much more efficient you become in PvP. The next concept for today is what I'm considering as the overarching theme for this video, and I'm referring to intentionality. The number one thing that can drastically help you improve in PvP is to go into your playing sessions and be intentional with everything you do. And it's incredibly simple because there's an entire spectrum of ways in which you can increase intentionality in PvP. From which weapons you want to run, to the type of way you want to play, to simply setting a goal for yourself to not die 10 times in a match. If you want to go into an environment and thrive, give yourself the opportunity to do so by having a game plan. I can't tell you how many times I've mindlessly gone into my PvP sessions just looking to slay out, and then coming out of that session thinking I got worse, or that my tolerance for the game was just shot because I was frustrated by the way I was playing. It wasn't until I slowed things down and really took a look introspectively at how I wanted to get better. When I started setting a goal for myself each match, I noticed that I was getting less frustrated. I wasn't focusing on the other team and who was using what loadouts, but I was more focused on myself and whether or not I was making progress towards my goal. When you start to shift your focus towards the things that you can control, you start to become more self-aware. You start to become more focused on your strengths and limitations, which is what ultimately makes for a great PvP player. If you're looking to continue to grow in your PvP journey, I made a few videos going over some other ways in which you can build upon that growth. Those videos should be showing up on your screen right now. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see ya.